Okay. We are being recorded. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Smith. I'm Executive Director of the Florida Literacy Coalition, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this series of trainings. And I think, and I hope that you'll find this to be a rewarding experience. FLC has been offering Train the Tutor training courses, mini courses like this for a number of years to help community-based organizations, library programs, and others who have volunteers that want to train as new tutors and teachers. And this course provides, I think, a very strong overview. We're not really promoting any one particular curriculum, but to really the core components that we feel and pro-literacy feel should be included in good quality tutor training. And we're very fortunate to have Susan Muchler as our presenter and facilitator for this course. And I think some of you probably know Susan. She spent many years here in Florida and was a library director over in Citrus County and has a big heart for literacy and started a very successful program at Citrus County Library that she managed with a lot of other things. She had a lot on her plate, but has always done great work in the area of adult literacy and is a real leader here in Florida, or was for a number of years. She moved about a year and a half ago up to Connecticut, and I'll let her share a little bit more about that, up to Woodbury, Connecticut, where she's the library director up there, but also doing adult literacy work, as I understand, there in Connecticut. So we're very fortunate to have Susan with us. We've done this both in person and virtually. Last time we did it virtually, and I think it was quite successful, and it really allows a little bit easier access for people from around the state to participate. So with that, I also want to thank the Florida Department of Education for their generous support in making this possible. I think at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to Susan. So Susan.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Greg. Thank you so much for everything that the Florida Literacy Coalition does, you know, for literacy. It's just amazing. Our program in Citrus County would have never gotten started off without the Florida Literacy Coalition helping us with the training and sending us a trainer and materials. And I know Zara is going to mention about the Florida Literacy Coalition trainer materials grants that are available, which is a great thing if you've never taken advantage of that or talked with Zara before. She is going to share information about the trainer materials grants. And I know she has a couple other announcements, right, Zara?
Yes. I'm putting the materials grant in the chat. That will have a lot of information of the process to request those materials. But if you have any questions outside of this session, feel free to email me or call me. I'm pretty sure all of you have my number at this point. I've been communicating with you about the registration links, so you can call me at the number in my signature. I wanted to make an announcement about our online tutor training course starting this Thursday as well. That is catered to tutors wanting to start training students. So I'm putting a flyer for that in the chat as well.
So that's a little bit different. So the course that's starting on Thursday, Zara, that one is for if you really want to know how to work one-on-one with a student or small group work, all those basic tutoring things to know. It's a great course. Versus today's course is more of a trainer course. We're going to go over training concepts and how you can be the trainer for your organization, or how you can train your tutors the best way. So they're slightly different, but they're both great.
Since we're making announcements, I also wanted to mention that we have a Leadership Institute coming up It's a 2-day institute. It's going to be virtual on the 22nd and 23rd of June. So it's really meant for directors, program managers of community, nonprofit literacy organizations, library programs. And I know we have a cross-section of people represented here. But if any of you are program managers or board members in your organization, this may be a good fit for you. It's a free 2-day event. We've been doing it for over 20 years now, and I'll go ahead and put a link in the chat if you're interested in signing up for that.
I put the link.
Great.
Oh, one last thing. I just want to direct you guys to the chat where we're putting all these links. If you have any technical questions or concerns during this course, please feel free to drop it in the chat and I will message you directly. If you have any questions for Susan, we will have breaks for Q&A, but if it's anything super immediate, I will be sure to read it out to her so that we can get that sorted.
Sounds great. That sounds great. All right, Zara, should we get started?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. I want to thank you so much for participating in the Tutor Trainer. And, you know, there's a lot of collective knowledge in this room. And I know there's going to be a lot of collective knowledge in this room because I've spoken with many of you. So while I am the facilitator, I may not have all the answers, but somebody will have the answer definitely in this room. Going forward, if you could please answer the questions up here and put that in the chat room. The thing that I really want to know is I would love to know what is the #1 thing that you want to get out of this course? Because we have some flexibility and we can certainly address those things. Like I know some people are coming in and wanting to know how to get tutors. You know, how do I get volunteer tutors? Other people have said to me, I really need a great agenda. I need an agenda for tutor training. Well, we're going to review some of those. So please let me know what is the #1 thing that you want to get out of this course. Now, what do you think, Sarah? Can we have everybody just briefly say their name and say the #1 thing that they want to get out of this course? Could we do that?
Yeah, definitely. Everyone can. Maybe. Do you want to stop sharing for a moment so we can see everyone's faces?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. And if we go in gallery mode, then everybody can just start shouting out your name and.
Okay. Okay, so do I need to change something in gallery mode or?
No, that's kind of a personal preference for everyone.
Okay. Okay, so who's going to start and sharing with us? Just give us your name, maybe where you're from, and what's the #1 thing that you want to get out of this course?
Good afternoon, I'm Vonda Bryant from Broward County Library, and the main thing I want to do is to revamp our tutor training for volunteers. We have not had in-person training in 3 years, so that's the main thing I want to get out of it. Some tips and tricks of the trade that will help me to bring it back and livening up the ones that I currently do online.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Vonda. Thank you.
Lisa Anderson with Palm Beach County Schools. Our adult ed program also utilizes some volunteers, but we're starting to have more one-on-one pairings in schools that the schools are having to train the volunteers as well. So we're just looking for more information that we can put out to them to give them some updated best practices to establish a program.
Sounds good. Thank you, Lisa.
Good afternoon. This is Gloria Parra with Literacy for Adults in Brevard, and we're an all-volunteer program too. We're starting to get some new tutors into our program, and we're revamping our tutor training, as the other person, Lisa here from Brevard, mentioned as well. I think one of the things I've noticed about our tutors is up to this time, we've had tutors that started at all different times. And I would like to see the number one thing from this program, knowing how to get tutors all on the same page as far as teaching equal competencies to our students. So a system, more of a system rather than people being all over the map with that.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you.
Hi, do you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Sandra Juanillo. I work for the Higher Education ESOL office. And I would love to learn how to get more volunteers. Yes, volunteers. Right now, it's very hectic to get volunteers nowadays. Students, high school seniors should try to, encourage them to volunteer. So that would be very beneficial.
Okay, Sandra, thank you.
Hi, I'm Trish Roberts. I'm from the Literacy Council of South Sarasota. And I think like a lot of what has already been said, we are looking for best practices, some curriculum for training the trainer. We have a lot of information that we use now in a great program, but I think to streamline it and have it a little bit more concise and kind of revamp the curriculum that we have right now.
Great. Thank you, Trish.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Loretta Garcia from Miami-Dade. I work in the adult program and just looking to learn a few extra skills. I'm often at your website and looking for anything extra I can learn.
Okay, thank you, Loretta.
Hi, I'm Donna Sweet. I work with Trish Roberts for the Literacy Volunteers of South Sarasota County. We're kind of cooperating with a couple other people on our team to research and renew our tutor training.
Sounds great, Donna. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Isabella from Delray Beach Public Library, and right now I'm kind of the one-man show when it comes to programming at my library. So I'm hoping from this course to learn how to not only recruit tutors, but also be able to train them when they get here. So that's why I'm here. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you. Thank you, Isabella.
Faye Shepherd here from Vero Beach, Florida Literacy Services. I see my compatriot Janet Amos is here. She's been active in our tutor training program, and I've been tasked with reviewing the tutor training program. And so I'm looking for best practices, that kind of thing. We spend a lot of time in our tutor training on literacy, but 90 to 95% of our adult students are ESL students. So there's an imbalance there. Best practices. And I tell you folks that are looking for tutors, well, for students, once the word gets out, you won't have any trouble getting students. And be glad to share a couple of ideas on recruiting tutors later.
That sounds great. Thank you, Faye. That sounds great.
Hello, I'm Janet Amos, and I'm a volunteer tutor just like Faye. And I work for Literacy Services of Indian River County. And I have been just doing a little 15-minute presentation to help with the tutor training. I think we have a pretty strong program, but the person who's conducting it is leaving, and we don't know who's going to be next. And so I'd like to get some ideas to maybe help that person out, whoever comes along.
That sounds great, Janet.
Okay, I'll go up. I'm Linda Freed. I'm with the Literacy Council of St. Petersburg. We're currently in complete rebuild mode post-COVID. We've lost a bunch of board members. I'm trying to contact all the old volunteers to see who's still working and still willing to work. We currently have more students looking for tutors than we have tutors with whom to pair them. And we're getting ready to try to do a tutor training. I wrote a grant to get for the support material for that training, have a facility willing to give us space. I'm interested in learning how to do a tutor training. Also very, very interested in learning how to do better data collection and assessment, given the fact that we have such a huge variety of students and a big variety of tutor background. I was a school-based occupational therapist in Sarasota County for 22 years, so my area of expertise is more with severely and profoundly involved many nonverbal kids, and so I have some skills that I use for that population. But we've got people that are all over the place. We have people from basic literacy all the way up to dyslexic and college grad.
That sounds great. Thank you, Linda.
Well, I guess it's my turn. I'm Mona Peters. I live in Crystal River, Florida, and volunteer with the Citrus Libraries. And as I put in the notes here, the chat rather, this is pretty much continuing education for me. I've been a volunteer tutor for over 20 years, and I'm looking forward to this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona. By the way, I know Mona for many years. Thank you, Mona.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, I'm Lola Mason. I'm with the Florida Literacy Council as a relatively new tutor, but I have decades of experience teaching adults at the university level. And I'm just open. I'm retired now and just open to learning new things. I'm enjoying teaching ESL to my tutors, to my students.
Okay, great, Lola. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sonora White. I'm with North Florida Advocacy Center for Learning. I am here to, like everyone else, to learn best practices and to get some extra help with recruitment with tutoring.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Sonora.
Hello, my name's Amber, Citrus County Libraries. I'm here for continuing education, and I have a strong teaching background, so it'll be interesting to see the library side of things because I'm newer to this position, so it's education for me. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Amber.
Are you ready for me?
Sure.
Okay, my name is Roberta Linfors. I was certified in 1974 or 75 at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. We had a lot of young girls that were married to servicemen. Most of them were from Vietnam at that era. So I started there, and then when I left that area, I went to Indiana, and I've had a lot of students there. And now I'm here in Florida. And I live in a housing area. We have 449 homes. Several of them, the spouses they don't speak English at all or just very little. So our homeowners association said that it would be really nice. I said I was more than willing to do it at no cost. So once a week we have an hour class in our clubhouse. We welcome all abilities. So we're having fun helping. We help each other through things with some of these words. I've got Chinese, I've got Spanish, I've got Hindi. So I've got a good cross section there. And we're having a good time. I was just looking to see if there's any new information out, or I have used so many things. I've all kinds of books and papers, and I use a lot of the magazines, the Hunt a Word. They like that. They can hunt the words out and then try to sound them out. We work that way. I have a lot of all ages. So I was just hoping to see if there's anything new out here.
Great. Well, that sounds great, Roberta. Thank you for sharing. Have we gotten everybody? Maybe we have. Sounds like we've talked to everybody and heard a little bit of what everybody hopes to get out of the course. So that sounds great. Thank you for sharing. I am going to bring up the notebook. Now, I did email out the notebook to you. First, let me ask, is there anybody that did not get my emails so I sent out 2 emails. One was a welcome one. And in that one, there were like 4 things. There was a learning styles, there was a training style. There was the agenda for today and for the whole coursework of the agenda, and also the participant assignment. So hopefully everybody got that email. The second email was a link to a Google Drive where I put up a lot of different resources that we're going to be taking a look at. So if for some reason you did not get those emails, maybe you want to put your email in the chat, and Zara and I will just make sure that you're on the list so that you do get all the emails going forward. All right.
Yep, and I'll also put the Google Drive in the chat just in case. It'll also be faster to pull up for everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, Zara. Okay. Okay, I have put up the notebook that I sent out. Is everybody seeing the Train the Tutor Trainer course notebook?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Okay, so in the years past, when we did this in person before the pandemic, the Florida Literacy Coalition would actually print this out and give it to you in a binder. But you don't have to do that, but we're going to review some of the things. So the whole purpose of the Train the Tutor Trainer course is to learn best practices, trainer competencies. Initially, some of you may be aware that pro literacy used to have a certification process. That no longer exists. The certification no longer exists, but their trainer competencies are wonderful. And we're going to go over some of their trainer competencies because they really are just spot on. So we're going to be taking a look at, workshop preparation, managing the group, and looking at different learning activities for trainings. We're going to be looking at adult learning theories and learning styles and training styles. We'll be talking about basic literacy as well as ESOL workshop content. And then we will practice designing a tutor training module, which everybody understands. We'd like you to present that to the group at the last session. And it can only be like 5, no more than 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be a PowerPoint. It can be a learning activity, but it should be something that you would possibly do at a tutor training. And it can be a new tutor training. It could be whatever, a pre-GED training, doesn't matter. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We're going to look at different resources that we talked about, the opportunity for you to practice your presentation skills. Okay. So yes, I did email out the learning styles inventory, the training styles inventory. Now, some people told me they didn't have time to do the training styles inventory because we had about 8 people that registered kind of at the last minute. So we probably won't go over the training styles inventory today. I think we can wait till the next session to go over that, just so if you haven't had a chance to do that, that you can do so. This is a completely online format. We talked a little bit about session 5. You'll be doing that presentation. Okay. So this is the Pro Literacy Trainer Competencies is actually in your book. It's in the notebook. And we're going to review it a little bit more. Okay. So the most important thing as trainers that we have to keep in mind is we are responsible for establishing the appropriate learning environment. It's our job to make sure that all the participants feel welcome, that they feel heard, and we create a safe learning environment. That's really important. So when I start a training, just like we did today, Greg gave me a little bit of an introduction. I don't want you to think that you're not bragging about yourself. You're establishing your credibility. So whenever I've done a training, and I've done trainings alone, and I've done trainings with other colleagues, and there's pros and cons for both. And we can talk about, versus doing a training by yourself versus with other people. There's different things you have to be aware of. But always, stand up, state your name, your position, how long you've been doing this, your credentials. You might even want to get personal as to why literacy is important to you. So I always get up and I say, my name is Susan Muchler. I have been a trainer for the State Library of Florida. I have been teaching for the Florida Literacy Coalition for over 10 years. I started an adult literacy program in Florida from scratch. I've helped 7 other counties in the state of Florida start up literacy programs from scratch. And, just talking a little bit about that, saying why literacy is important to me. Literacy is very important to me because I'm the first American in my family. A lot of you probably don't realize, but you cannot always see culture. And my parents are from Germany. And yes, I had an accent as a child and I was pulled out of class. And, they wanted to see how I pronounce things and look at my tongue formation and all those embarrassing things. So I know what it's like to grow up with parents that don't speak the English language. I grew up with parents that I watched become citizens. I was about 8 years old when my parents became citizens. So that's why literacy is important to me. So you might want to have some kind of, things in the back of your mind, what you would say at a tutor training, whether it's a presentation going out to a group or at an actual training. Just have some ideas in mind. What's about you that you want to share? And like I said, this is establishing credibility. It's not bragging. The other thing you probably need to do at your tutor training is to establish some kind of a ground rule. We're not going to talk over one another. We're going to respect one another's ideas. Some trainers, as a best practice, will hold all questions till a designated time. They call that a parking lot. They say, okay, that's great. I'm going to go over here and write this, on my whiteboard. I'm going to write this on my flip chart and we'll get back to it. That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Let me go ahead and write that down and we'll address that when we get to that point. And that you can call it like a parking lot. Literally, I've seen people draw a car and they say, let's save that for the parking lot. A lot of times I don't mind taking the questions as we go along. You as the trainer have to determine if you can afford that or not. The larger the group, sometimes the more difficult that can be. When I do a new tutor training, I actually like to get like 25 people in the room. I like 20, that was always my magic number. And for some reason, I was always pretty lucky to get a full training, a new tutor training session. The other thing I like to do, I'm going to surprise you on that, is when we break out for sessions, I will sometimes use something like a tongue drum or a chime. And if you want to to get people back in their seats after doing some kind of a breakout session. You can say, okay, everybody, when you hear the chime, I'm going to need you to get back to your seats. And you can do something like that. I once had another trainer say to me, well, I want to blow a whistle. And I said, no, let's not do the whistle. Let's do the Zen chimes or the tongue drum. So workshop guidelines, you want to have some guidelines. So Pro Literacy recommends, I'm talking about a new tutor training right now. Pro Literacy recommends that a new tutor training be 12 hours. So I've seen different programs where they've done that in like 2 full days. I've seen programs where they do it in smaller sessions and make it like 3 or 4 days. I like the back-to-back day. That's just me personally. And when I've gone to other counties to do their training, of course, that's what I did, was just the 2 back-to-back days, because Florida Literacy Coalition was sending me somewhere to do the training. So the other thing with Pro Literacy, they do recommend that all 4 components of reading, writing, speaking, and listening, reading, writing, speaking, and listening are all taught at the same time. I will say that with ESOL, a lot of times we tend to not teach them writing right away, but that Pro Literacy does recommend that all 4 components are taught at once, even if you have just a little bit of writing in there at the beginning. So when it comes to housekeeping, when you're having a tutor training, you know, people, I actually would say a lot of this on the phone before they even came to my training. I would tell them, you know, the room is well air conditioned. You might want to consider bringing a little sweater. The room we have a refrigerator and a microwave. You're welcome to bring your lunch. We will be taking a break for lunch. You can leave the premises. I would actually explain this all to them while I was signing them up for the workshop. I figured the more they know, the better. It puts them at ease so that they can actually learn. Remember, when you're training your tutors, they are the learners for the day. So you want to treat them as the learners for the day and make sure that they're aware of all these things. You know, let them know where the restroom is. So when people are coming into the training room, I'm saying that all up front. I'm saying, okay, welcome everybody. You know, we're going to take a lunchtime break today about 12:30. I've already explained where everything is. I've pointed out where the restroom is. I've let them know that if they need to stand up and walk around in the back of the room, that's okay. I've told them that we're going to take 2 breaks. I've told them that we have bottled water in the back of the room, or coffee, help yourself. And the other thing is, I always point out that their learner may have never been, if you're a library-based program, their learner may never have been in the library before. And they might be wondering where the bathroom is. So even that tutor, when they meet with their learner, they need to have a little housekeeping rules and say, hey, just so you know, if you need a break, let me know. If you need to stand up, let me know. Or this is where we'll continue to meet, and so forth. So that's housekeeping. So every training should have some kind of a warm-up activity or an icebreaker. And I've actually included a few in your resources in the Google Share Drive. So this is really important to me as a trainer, and this is definitely best practice. If you're having a training, you want to be well prepared. You want to be in that room ahead of time. Because what happens is, while you're setting up the computer, or you're setting up your posters, or whatever it is that you're setting up in your room, the participants, as they come in, will want your attention. They will want to come up to you and talk to you. And then it can sometimes be difficult if you're not ready and prepared. So just keep that in mind. When I set up a room, I usually have PowerPoint, so I usually have some kind of a computer set up with a screen. I love to make my room look like a conference. I'm just going to come right out there and say, I love tablecloths. I love handouts. I love books that people can see. Posters, colorful things, little manipulatives. I'll show you some of those later. You know, I make it like a mini conference, and people have always said, wow, your trainings are like really professional. And it gives them things to do when you take a 5 or 10 minute break, or let them walk around the room. If you have those things set up, they won't be wanting your desperate attention while you're still setting up. So those are the things I do. I make sure I have the rooms set up, or things of interest for the potential tutors to look at while I'm setting up. And because no matter what, tutors will usually come early. They will come early. And so going back to the warm-up activities and the warm-up activities and the icebreaker ideas. I've actually even put up like big posters with ideas and let them have stickers and, hey, what would you like to learn in the future? Now, they do not always know what they want to learn in the future. So you might have to put some ideas up. So sometimes I'll just put fun ideas up, like using Dr. Seuss or using newspapers with your learners, or just different ideas. And then that's kind of like a pre-tutor training activity. If you wanted to do something like that, you could do something like that. That's a pre-activity. I love, whenever I have a tutor training, I love a name tent, and I had a name tent around here. Does everybody know what a name tent is?
Nope.
Okay, let me show you. Can you see this, or is it too small?
I don't see anything.
It's okay.
Can you see that?
No.
Okay, let me see.
Yes, I can see it.
I can see it.
So what it is it's actually just a piece of paper or a cardstock, and I've folded it in threes, and then it's like a name.
Now I know what it is.
It's like a name tag, and you want them to write it on both sides so that people in front of them can see it and people in back can see it. And so this is just like a little name tag. You can actually use this in different way. I've seen some people will do funny things like an adjective, like could be, you know, smart Susan or sassy Susan. You could have somebody, whatever your, you know, marvelous Mona.
Yeah.
You know, something like that. You could do different things like that.
I remember now.
Okay. I've even seen some trainers will have the participants draw 1 or 2 things that represent them on their name tent. And then that can be an icebreaker. They can actually do that as an icebreaker. So am I really tiny on your screen right now? Or can you see me?
Yes, you're tiny.
I'm really tiny? Okay. Okay, let me see. If I do this. Now, do you see me fully?
Yeah.
You see me fully? Okay. So these are called, everybody sees me fully, right? Okay. These are called, you don't see me?
No. I don't
You
know.
need to
I'm
go
using
to gallery view. Gallery view will give you this, speaker view.
Okay. Okay.
Change it from gallery to speaker.
Okay, let me try that.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. So I took down the notebook for a minute so you could see this. Okay, so these are called thumb balls. These are called thumb balls, and Amazon sells them. There's some are made by the Trainer's Warehouse, some are made by thumball.com, and these are great for tutor trainings, but they're great for pre-GED classes. They're great for ESOL classes. Anytime you just want to break it up, you have, you know, you throw the ball, you have one, you make sure you make eye contact first with somebody, and then you throw the ball to them, and wherever their thumb lands, that's what they answer. So okay, so let's just say, here we go. Your most unusual job. Well, my most unusual job was I was a wedding photographer assistant in my early 20s. And I had a great time going to wedding after wedding. And many times I had to dance with the groomsmen. But it was a fun job. I got to go to a lot of parties, and I did this in addition to my library work. This was just a weekend thing. So anyway, that's what you do. These are thumb balls. There's different sizes. They range anywhere from like $15 to, I've seen some very expensive ones. Ironically, this one here that I have was pretty cheap because I guess the color, I guess nobody liked this bright yellow. So just take a look if you're interested in the thumb balls. They are fun to use, fun to have, especially if you have multiple locations. Keep a few in each location. So some of the other icebreakers, let me go back to the book. Let me bring the book back up. Okay, where is the book? Okay, there we go. Okay, some of the other icebreakers that you can do. Have you ever heard of 2 truths and a fib? You can actually have your tutors come up with 2 ideas, or 3 ideas actually, 2 things that are true and 1 thing that's false. And then it's kind of like a guessing game. So somebody would get up and say, you know, hi, my name is Susan Muchler, and let me tell you 3 things about myself. 1, I'm a concert violinist who plays classical music. 2, I had an accent as a child because I had parents that didn't speak the English language. And then 3, I left a person at the altar. I didn't show up for my own wedding. And then you would have to guess which one, which ones were true and which one was the fib. So yeah, that's a fun icebreaker that you can do as well. By the way, I did show up for the wedding. That wasn't the one. Unfortunately, I showed up for that wedding. Okay. So if you're following along in the book, we're on page 4 here, and this is an interview icebreaker. I have used this for years. I actually have used this for over 10 years. I would have the tutors break up in pairs and have them interview each other and then have them report on it. Now, this is pretty simplistic. The one tutor would ask the other potential tutor, what's your name? It's kind of like an interview. What organization? Okay, now I have that in here because we are across the state of Florida. So instead of number 2 being with what organization, you may want to say, what branch of the library or what town are you from? You might want to ask something more specific like that. You can ask, what's your most difficult or most successful or most memorable moment, training, tutoring, or teaching, or it could even be in school. Maybe have somebody talk about a positive or negative moment in their own school life. And tell me one thing that no one in this room knows about you. So this is an activity that I tend to do with new tutors at a new tutor training. And then I also remind them that they can do this with their learner. They can actually interview their learner to get some information about their learner in a similar way. So I want to give a trainer tip. So when you do an activity such as this, you always want to model. That's a best practice. You want to model. You want to show them what you expect. And you also want to be very clear with the instructions. So for example, when I do this, I would have everybody pair up, and I would say something to the extent like, okay, you're going to have 7 minutes. I want you to interview each other. And when you hear my gong or my tongue drum, then we're going to switch sides, and then you're going to have another 7 minutes to interview the other person. So you're going to take turns interviewing one another. I make it really clear. Otherwise, if you don't, they're going to think the 7 minutes they have to rush and interview both each other during that 7 minutes, if that makes sense. So that's definitely a best practice with a trainer. You want to make sure that you're very clear in your instructions going forward. So then after they have done the interviewing part for each other, let's say the 14 minutes have gone past, I would get up and I would get up with a colleague, or if I don't have a colleague, sometimes I stand there and then I kind of do the other thing and I pretend like I'm the two people. But this is something I would typically say. And this is one of my old colleagues that I would do this with. I would say, hi, I would like you to meet my new friend, April Frazier. April was born and raised in Lakeland, Florida, but she lives in Inverness now. When I asked April what led her to become a volunteer tutor, she said that literacy is so important and that everybody deserves the right to read and to learn. April wants to be able to give learners the tools to equip them to be able to succeed in life. The one thing that no one in this room knows about April is that she loves collecting turtles, and she is a big Georgia Bulldogs football fan, despite being a Florida-born native. So I would actually model that and explain how to do that. I have another example. Let me see if I can share that real quick.
One more person.
Let me see. I'm going to share one more example. Okay, let's take a look at this for a minute.
Happier.
Okay, so this is something I might put up either at a new tutor training or at a continuing education workshop. This is just fun. And if anybody wants to try it.
Susan,
Yes.
we aren't seeing anything but you.
Oh, you're not seeing anything? I'm so sorry. Let me see.
Try share screen again.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. That's not the right one. Let's see. Okay, I do want to share this here. Let's see. Let's see, share screen. Okay, this looks like it's going to work now.
Yep.
Is that working good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect.
She's Zooming, but some kind of training.
Okay, so fill in the following sentence.
Is there anything to add on about lab work?
Somebody's talking in the background. Oh, somebody's talking in the background, and we can hear about medical information. Okay, so fill in the following sentence. Learning is like a blank because blank. And I've put a couple of suggestions there. So fill in the following sentence. Learning is like a clock, because it can really happen at any time. Can't it? You never know when you're going to learn something. So anybody else want to try one? And I just, and I just put a couple of words up there, but you could put whatever
I would
words you
try
want
one.
up there. Yes.
You mean the example you have, right?
Yes.
Okay, learning is like a map Because it guides your path.
That's beautiful because it guides your path. Exactly.
I have one.
Okay.
Learning is like a cactus because sometimes it's prickly.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I put in the chat, learning is like an airplane. A community of people come together and soar higher and higher.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So this is just
How
another,
about,
yeah.
learning is like a shooting star because the sky's the limit.
Wow. You're all getting more poetic as we go on. Terrific. Terrific.
Donna
So,
raised her hand.
so icebreakers can be fun. Sometimes when I've done a GED training, and you want the tutors to realize what the GE students have gone through and how they feel like learning has failed them, I may put up something more along the lines like, tell me about your absolutely worst learning experience. So that this way, you know, they might have some empathy for what some of the people have gone through, the ones that have failed out of school or have stopped school.
Yeah, I don't bottom up.
Okay, let's see. Okay, I want to share. I don't know where my tutor book went. Let's see. I wonder if I closed it. Oh, there we go. Is this it? No, that's not it. There we go. Okay. You're not seeing this yet, are you?
That's true. We're not.
You're not seeing this, are you? Okay, let me
Nope.
see. Okay. I used to have like a share thing up on top and I don't see it. Okay, here we go. There. Okay, thank you for being patient with me. Okay, everybody's seeing that now.
We can see.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're going to take a look at, I'm not sure if most of you have either some kind of a presentation, like an orientation or introduction to your literacy program, you know, whether it's a PowerPoint or whether it's a film clip or something. I'm not sure if you are having that. I'm going to share some with you, and I have different versions depending on the group that I'm trying to reach. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, then there's just some sample agendas in here. Now, if you look at the Google Share Drive, I have much better samples in that. And I'm actually going to show you some of my best practices, how I have a separate agenda that I give out to the tutors versus the one that the trainers use. And I'm going to share that with you. But there's just some, if you're going through the book here, there's some sample agendas in here. By the way, if you're not a member, if you're not an organizational member of the Florida Literacy Coalition, I recommend doing so. You can actually even, I put their logos on my agendas, and I'm also a pro-literacy organizational member, and I've also put their logos on my agendas. I think it kind of looks nice. I've actually had my, you know, my organization logo, I've put the Florida Literacy, and I've put the, especially when the Florida Literacy is sponsoring your training through the materials grants. Okay, so this is still the objectives in the course. And I'm not going to read everything over for you. You can go through this notebook when you have more time, because there's just a lot of things that we can still go over, and we don't need to read every single thing in this book. But I wanted to take a look at the Pro Literacy Trainer competencies. So the first one is the trainer. The trainer prepares for a learning event, okay? They should have a knowledge of the content area. They base their training on objectives. They become informed about the educational level of the students served that needs to be addressed in the tutor training. And they pretty much know what the needs of the prospective tutors are. So I like to say the first one, my 3 keywords is knowledge, needs, and objectives. You have to have knowledge, you have to know the needs, and you have to have objectives. So that's what I like to say, knowledge, needs, and objectives. Those are my keywords for A. And I think it's really important. If we're going to be tutor trainers, we have to always be willing to learn ourselves. Tutors should always be willing to learn and enrich themselves, but tutor trainers especially. So every time that I had a tutor enrichment workshop or a continuing education workshop for my tutors, that was my opportunity to learn something myself. And I would actually study a topic and make sure that I knew that topic before I presented it. So I think that's a great way to make sure that you're staying, that you're doing your own continuing education. Okay, so 2, we establish an appropriate learning environment. It's safe. We've gone over the housekeeping. We're using warm-up activities or icebreakers, and flexibility, patience, and respect. It can be hard sometimes. I can tell you stories where, by the way, become a storyteller. As a trainer or presenter, always have a good story in your back pocket about a learner. And I'll share a couple with you in a bit. But one time I was doing a tutor training, and of course I had a pretty important person sitting in my tutor training, a higher up. And this gentleman was like 20 minutes late at least. And I'm standing up in the front of the room, I'm going over our literacy program and the expectations of tutors. And, this is how we do things the specifics, how we do things in our tutor training program. And he walks up and literally walks right up. And he's like, hey, I'm here, I'm here finally. And it was just so, wow, it was loud. It was, it was disruptive. It was almost embarrassing. And here's where a trainer has to take the high road and say, well, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much, John. Okay, John, have a seat here. Here's the book. I got to continue right now, John, but I'm going to catch you up on the break, So, but sometimes they will, test your patience. I've had people where I'm talking about, we're helping adult basic education, we're helping English speakers of other languages. And if somebody comes out and rudely says, well, everybody should speak English. And I've had things like that too, where tutors really said, things, and I was like, I had to take them aside. And of course, you knew I wasn't going to match that person up with an English language learner. That certainly wasn't going to happen. So just be prepared. Sometimes people will want to go off into politics, and they'll say, well, why are these people never learned how to read? What's wrong with our school system? And I would say, you know what? We can't control those outside things, but what we can do is we can make a difference right here in our own community. We don't need, to know what happened. We just need to help. And you just need to get it back on track. So I've had all kinds of crazy things like that happen in tutor trainings, and you probably will too. And it really boils down to, keeping calm, right? Just keeping it calm. So, and if we don't keep it calm and we don't keep it safe for the other participants, if we let that one person taint it, that can be a danger. So that's why I'm mentioning that here. So number 3 is we're using appropriate body language, our voice. We choose vocabulary, metaphors, examples. We use questions properly. We are always positive, even if the participant, even if the tutor says something that kind of didn't make sense, I would say, oh, you find something good in it. You find something good in what that prospective tutor has said. Unless, of course, they're saying everybody should learn the English language and they should go home. That's a different story. I'm not talking about that. But, if they try to make a positive comment and they've kind of missed the mark, you can say, yeah, that's a good, thank you for reminding me. Yes. And if you have those people that want to interrupt constantly, we're going to talk a little bit more about those people. They basically just want to show that they have some value to bring. And I always thank the person. I would say, thank you, Susan. Thank you so much for bringing that point up. Did everybody hear what Susan said? Susan had a great point. And I just give Susan the attention for a minute, and then let's get back on track. So that's your classroom management. When it comes to asking questions, one of my best practices that I love to do is, instead of asking, does anybody have any questions? I don't ask that, because the answer, it doesn't get your brain thinking. That's a yes or a no answer. If I say, what questions do you have? What questions do you have? Now I have got you thinking. What questions do I have? It gets you thinking. And it does take about 7 seconds for the tutor or the participant to actually come up with a question, just so you know. So you have to be comfortable with that silence. Be comfortable with that silence. Get them thinking. What questions do you have? That's one of my favorite things that I learned. I like to read a lot of educational psychology things. I will share a couple other little things. I love to read Psychology Today. They always have some, like one of the things I was reading not too long ago is that we are in our prime with vocabulary knowledge when we are in our 60s. Isn't that interesting? That was an article from Psychology Today. So I always just pick up little things here and there. And then when I do, I actually write down the source. So this way, if I quote it somewhere, I can let my tutors know where I got that from. Excuse me. So the other thing is on number 3 with the platform presentation skills. Are you hiding behind a podium? Are you getting out and talking? Now, I actually prefer to do in-person trainings versus virtual. I actually prefer in-person. I'm all over the room. I have things hanging up on every wall. I like to walk over here and point to that. I like to walk over here. If a participant talks, I'll walk over and say, hey, did everybody hear what Isabella said? And I'll stand by Isabella, because when she's talking, I want them to look at Isabella. So I literally run the room. But I had to learn that. I actually learned that through the ProLiteracy competencies. And I'll tell you why. So when ProLiteracy had their certification process, you would have to take, and I'm sorry this doesn't exist anymore, I really wish it did. You would have to take 3 online tests, okay? One in Adult Basic, one in ESOL, and then one in Basic Knowledge. But what I loved about their program was that you would actually have to be observed. So I used to go out and observe people. I've observed many people for the training competencies, and I would actually write, Trish did a great job with classroom management. She kept everybody on track, or if I would say, Susan Susan actually did not do a good job keeping track of time or whatever, you know, whatever it was. And I would put little pluses and little minuses. So what I would like you to gain from here, especially if you are in a team of trainers, this would be great if you could create the safe environment where you would actually tell each other, hey, you know, what do I need work on? What was good? What worked? What didn't work? It's very hard to get to that type of relationship with people. I used to ask my old supervisor, I would do something like a leadership academy or a citizens academy, and I would have to present on adult literacy. And I would say, hey, well, how did I do? What did I, you know, did it make sense? What should I change? And I really didn't get a lot of feedback. But I'm a little different because I've been a pro literacy person who observes. So I think this is a great thing. If you really want to be a trainer and you really want to amp up your skills, you know, be open to hearing some critical feedback. I mean, I know myself, we all have things to improve on. Look, I had a difficulty trying to share the screen with you. So I know my shortcomings here, but we can't improve if we're not acknowledging, if that makes sense. And I think I talked a little bit about 3, you know, building on participants' ideas. If they say something, I give them credit. Oh, Isabella did a great job. Look what she said. You know, thank you for bringing that up. So with number 2, going back to that, my keywords for number 2 are safe, engaging, and flexibility. That's what I think number 2 is: safe, engaging, and flexibility. It's harder online, but I love to look in the eyes of my potential tutors, and I can see who's engaged and who's not. I can see who's tired, you know, or maybe they're scared. Maybe I've overwhelmed them with too much information. So it's good to take a feel of the room. And then number 3, my keywords for number 3 is body language, you know, voice, and questions. So number 3 is body language, voice, and questions. You know, when you're a new trainer, it's very easy to want to hide behind a podium. And one of the things that I had to learn with voice as a trainer is we tend to want to talk too fast. Sometimes we're nervous. We want to talk too fast. When I find myself in that position, I like turn to the whiteboard and I try to write something on there, like, you know, a question, or I'll write my name or something, and or welcome. And as I turn around to the whiteboard, I'm telling myself, you got this. I always tell myself, you know more than them. You know more than those potential tutors, because you do. There's a lot of knowledge in this room, and you all have a lot to share. So you just have to remind yourself sometimes and stomp out those ants, those automatic negative thoughts. Stomp the ants, because you got this. So that's what I tell myself. It happens to all of us. Okay, number 4, we conduct learning activities. We might have some lecture, we have some demonstration. I love the role play. I love to have a tutor come up and do a little role play with me. You might want to show some film clips, do some small group work. I have not done it online where I break people out into little groups. I don't know how you feel about that, if you like that or not. Anytime I've done that or I've been asked to do that, I did not like it online, but that is something that you might want to consider. We talked about the clear instructions. I will say a trainer tip is anytime you ask for a volunteer to come up from your, you know, from your group, like if I say, I'm going to need a volunteer to come up and help me, be very clear what it is you're going to ask. Like I would say, Faye, I need a volunteer. Would you be willing to come up, and I'm going to do the, you know, the language experience approach. I'm just going to ask you a couple of sentences, what you did last weekend. Are you okay with that, Faye? I would let her know before she comes up and stands up there in front of the group what I'm asking her to do. So that's just a trainer tip. Always let your tutors feel comfortable, let them know what they're coming up to help you with. I like the idea of providing opportunity for review and practice. I love at in-person workshops to let my tutors sit in small groups. And I love to have them, if you want to break up, you know, if everybody comes in and they sit in the same groups and you're always, when you're breaking out in groups, they're always in the same group, have them count off by fours, make 4 groups, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. All the ones go here, all the 2s go here, the 3s go here, the 4s go here. Sometimes you might want to break up the group so it's not always the same people sitting together and working together. So for 4, that conducts learning activities, my keywords are variety, variety of formats, variety, clear instructions, very clear, and we honor the learning styles. So you want to have the visual, you want to have the auditory, you want to honor everybody. Okay, 5, manages the group process. We have to intervene when problem behavior occurs. If you have tutors that are friends and are sitting next to each other and they won't stop talking and talking and talking and talking, and you're training, I find that sometimes when you just walk over and just stand next to them and just put your hand lightly on their table, they'll stop. That is just like a psychological quiet thing. It works. You know, if somebody is consistently negative, you probably need to talk to them at a break and say, you know, to find out how they're feeling. I've seen people where they were overwhelmed and nervous about it. And then you can always have them do other things. You know, some tutors will tell you, I only want to teach math. Some tutors will tell you, I never want to teach math. So if you honor the tutors and put them in this the spot that fits them best. I've had tutors that we had only do assessments. They have done all our intaking, you know, and assessments. So, you know, you can find something. I've had tutors that actually didn't want to be tutors. They just wanted to write curriculum. Well, that's great. I've had tutors that said, I only want to teach citizenship. So I think some of those tutors, you know, when you feel them out during the tutor training, you can place them in a place where they'll be able to help you, but it'll also be beneficial for them as well. So managing the group process. Okay, it's already 3:15. How is everybody doing? Do we need a stand-up break? And does everybody need a 5-10 minute break or so? How's everybody doing? You okay? You want me to go another 15 minutes? I thought I would probably, yeah, you want to keep going? Or you want a break?
Yes, keep going.
I think you can keep going.
Okay, okay, great, great. Thank you for that. So, you know, monitoring time. If you, one of the things I have shared with you on the share drive is like a lesson plan exercise. If you tell them I'm going to give you a half an hour, you know, monitor the time. Monitor the time, give them a 5-minute warning, say, how's everybody doing? We're going to wrap this up in about 5 minutes. Get your last thoughts down on paper. And remember, somebody's going to be reporting to the group. You know, you want to tell them those types of things. So you're watching the time. And we make adjustments. I've had people where actually the last time I taught this course, people needed the break sooner. So, you know, you have to be open. You have to be flexible. Sometimes when it gets close to lunch, I may have my agenda and maybe we've gone a little over and I'll say, you know what, do we want to finish? Do we want to do the learning styles now? for the next 15 minutes, or do you want to break for lunch? And we'll do that when we return. Sometimes I ask the participants, what do you want to do? So feel free as the trainer to gather that input from your potential tutors. And then number 6, okay, so number 5, did I tell you we monitor time? That's my keyword. 5, monitor your time. Monitor time. Attend to needs of diverse participants. 5 is attend to needs of diverse participants and make adjustments. As the trainer, you can make adjustments. It may say that on the training agenda, but you can always say, hey, everybody okay if we switch this topic around or do this? Okay, number 6, we evaluate the training outcomes. Basically, we want to get the tutor to be able to do the task on their own. That's what it all boils down to. Can we get the tutor? Have we taught the tutor enough to be able to get that task done on their own? That's what we want to do. Have we provided the tutor with enough tools in their toolbox? I love the tools in their toolbox so that they can do it on their own. And we want to look at the feedback. You should have an evaluation process. Look at the feedback. I have shared a couple of evaluations in the Google Share Drive. You will want to take a look at what they're saying. Now, excuse me for a second. You're not going to please everybody. I'm just going to come out and say that. I've had tutors tell me they love the 2 days. I've had tutors tell me, can it be longer? They want it 3 days. And so, you know, like I said, ProLiteracy's best practice is 12 hours. That is their best practice, is 12 hours. So what do you think about these ProLiteracy trainer competencies? Do you think that you see some validity in them? I think they're pretty good. I do want to mention, so I do want to reiterate, if I haven't mentioned this already, when we're creating content for a new tutor training or any training, to do it in blocks, to come up with the ideas in modules. And you're going to see that a little bit more clearly when I show you some of the agendas. Why it's great is because if you have a module or a block, you can switch it around. Now, especially if you're in a group of trainers, this is gold, because if one trainer can't be there a particular day, you can switch the modules around to make it work. And I always like to know the approximate time it would take to teach a module. Let's say, for example, to teach cultural differences, it might take 15 or 20 minutes. So then I know I could pop that in over here, whereas a learning styles might take 15, 20 minutes, or you can switch them around. Does that make sense? Why it might be a good idea to teach things, you know, have them in blocks or modules? That's a ProLiteracy best practice. That is a ProLiteracy best practice, and I still use that to this day. One of my other trainer tips, and I'm going to show you these, is to make 2 different agendas. I actually have one that's a simple agenda that I give out to the tutors, and then I have one that's a detailed agenda for the trainers. And on the detailed agenda for the trainers, I will put the name, the time, and my page numbers. Now, I tend to use Let's Start, but I like Let's Start as the base book. But there's lots of other materials that you can add to it. So when you see my agendas, I have written down the Let's Start page numbers, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. So my tip is have 2 different agendas, and a simple one for the tutors and a detailed one for you, the trainer, or your block of trainers if you're doing it together. So ask yourself, you know, will you be training alone? Will you be training with others? For many, many years, I relied on a volunteer as a trainer, and she was amazing. Like I would train with this particular volunteer, and she was amazing with that. What kinds of trainings will you hold? Are you holding new tutor trainings? Are you going to be holding pre-GED instructor trainings? Are you going to be holding citizenship instructor trainings? Will you be doing assessment workshops specifically on just assessments? And then my favorite, which is the quarterly continuing education meetings or tutor enrichment workshops. I love those because I think that's what retains tutors. That's what retains tutors. It gives them a place to see you or the other literacy staff or the other trainers. You get to share new content. And like I said, I always push the envelope, and myself, I learned something new for that. And I always had an agenda too for those. So I'll just give you an example. Some of the things that I would do for the quarterly continuing education meetings would be, you probably are familiar with sight words, but if not, we're going to talk a little bit more about sight words. So sight words are instantly recognizable words that most people would know in 3 seconds or less. So if I had a flashcard, most people would know and in 3 seconds or less, and, to, with. Those are sight words. One of the things that I like to do at a continuing education workshop is teaching sight words in blocks. And I'm going to show you a great book that's going to help you. So for example, this can be for your adult basic, or your English language learner will love this, especially because they will sound like a native English speaker. So let me give you an example. Salt and pepper, Adam and Eve, peaches and cream. Those are just 3 I could think of the top of my head. You are learning those in a block. So that becomes like a block. You learn a lot. You learn quickly, but you also learn the correct word order. So that was one of they call that non-reversible pairs. I love that. Non-reversible sight word pairs. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, so we had a few of you mention that you want to recruit tutors and learners, and a few people had some great ideas already. So I know there's going to be some good discussion here. So do we want to talk about recruiting tutors and learners? Anybody have anything they want to throw out there?
Okay, I'll go. We
Okay,
frequently have a farmer's market table, local events, the downtown art walk, downtown Friday night. We try to have a table there. And so that kind of thing, for students, among our student community, when they come in and you ask them, how did you hear about us? The response is usually, everybody knows. So the word of mouth is out for the students, but getting the adult volunteers, we have a large retired community in Vero Beach. And so working with homeowners associations, visiting the fraternal organizations, the Rotary, the Lions Club, that kind of thing, making a presentation. Your larger church frequently have a social justice or community action. So making a presentation to that committee or to the entire congregation, those are all ways that you can get the word out. And if you emphasize You do not have to have a teaching background. You just need to be able to read and write and speak clearly. I mean, some of our tutors have pretty heavy accents, regional accents from the States or foreign accents, but they're still doing a good job because they're getting these people started. And that's one more thing that they can contribute. So having an accent isn't a major problem. Not having a teaching background isn't a major problem. There are things that we can do to work around that.
That was perfect, Faye. Perfect. That's exactly, I agree. The churches, they want to be tutors often. Women's clubs too, women's clubs. You know who actually has been great to work with over the years for me too, has been the Daughters of the American Revolution. They actually have literacy in their bylaws.
Yeah.
But I love the tables at events. You said the farmers market, you said the art walk. That's a great idea. Great idea. We used to have one of our tutors, he would sit up often in front of Walmart with a sign like, ask me about how to get my GED or ask me about GED. Great, great. So then when you go to set up your trainings, you're going to have to select training dates and of course, marketing them. One of the best practices that I love to do is I actually like to schedule all my trainings for the year. I actually will have like, you know, you can always add, but you can have like 4, I don't know how many new tutor trainings you want to have a year. I've done anywhere from 2 to 4 a year. You can also do smaller ones just in time if you needed one. But the quarterly, but I like to have everything on one sheet so that people can hang it up on the refrigerator. So here's a list of our new tutor trainings. Here's a list of our pre-GED instructor trainings. Here's a list of our assessment workshops. Here's a list of our continuing education workshops, and just have it on one sheet. And some of the tutors will want to come for refreshers or come to different things if you have it there. And they may, if you have it so readily, easily available, they may share with their friends or so forth. So I like to have it, I'm a planner and I like it planned out for the year if possible. If that's something that you can do and you're able to make that decision, that would be my recommendation.
Susan, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Trish, I think that's a great idea, but what happens if you don't have the number of tutors that you'd like for a session? Let's say you have 7 minimum and you do your schedule January, maybe every month, every other month. And now you're like, oh boy, we only have 3, we only have 4. How do you, I mean, when you said a group of 25, I'm like, wow, yay, that would be fantastic. But what do you recommend for moving forward with that?
So I think okay, so I will admit, since the pandemic, I have not had a group of 25. I want to say my largest has been maybe 19. And that's here in Connecticut. But before the pandemic, I always had 25. It is hard. You have to make a decision as to how many are you willing to tutor, you know, to train at a time. I will admit, when we've had smaller groups, maybe a little bit more casual. I will sit down more in a circle with them. But I do feel like people need emails, people need reminders, reminder phone calls. And I don't know if you're putting it out in the newspaper, but we did like to put it out in the newspaper that we're going to be offering this workshop. So yeah, I mean, 7 is still a good group, is still a good number. I mean, that, you know, you would probably still want to hold the training with 7. I think it depends too. Are you asking for funding? one of the reasons why I always wanted to have such a high number is I was asking the Florida Literacy Coalition to sponsor our trainings, and they will give you up to about $500 worth of materials. I don't know if you're aware of that, and you can actually tell them what you'd like. So I would say, you know, I would like 25 Lit Start books or whatever it is that you want, as long as it doesn't exceed the $500 mark. I will say I have
What organization is that?
the Florida Literacy, Florida.
Okay.
Yep, they
Thank
will
you.
give you up to $500 in training materials. They will actually also pay for your trainer. I don't know if you're aware of that. Because I often went out when I was in Florida and would do the training for other organizations until they felt good on their feet, so to speak. But so if you want to fill a class and you are asking for funding from the Florida Literacy Coalition, I'll give you this is my personal tip, is I would sometimes reach out to our jail. I would actually, many times people from the Federal Correctional Institute would love to come to the tutor training, if you can believe that. And so yeah, if you wanted to get a couple of seats more, they wouldn't necessarily be doing it for your organization, but you'd still be contributing to an improvement in literacy in your local area.
Right.
So
thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one of the other things for okay, so physical environment table arrangements. I think we have a slide. Let me see. Yeah, I think we have a slide further on down that ProLiteracy shows different table arrangements. I personally love the U. I don't know if you're using any particular. I like a square, and I like the U #1. I like the U because as a trainer, picture it, you can walk up and down in between that U and back to your front. That's my favorite. U is my favorite. That's just a personal thing. Some people like more of a classroom setup. I'm a big one that everybody should have a table to write on. That's me. I do like refreshments at my trainings. I always made sure we had little cookies or water and coffee, tea. And then we're going to talk more about the training curriculum. I mentioned a little bit about having an evaluation. The trainer debriefing is if you work with a group to actually say, hey, what worked, what didn't work? What could I improve upon? Even if you work alone and you have others in the room, whether they're colleagues or whether they're your supervisor, try and get feedback. It doesn't always work. I've tried. But yeah. And then, you know, what are some of the best practices for matching tutors and learners? You know, here's where ProLiteracy actually doesn't make a lot of recommendations. And I've read there's a study out, it's quite a few years old now, and it said something to the effect, it was like a New England literacy study, something to the effect like less than 2% of learners quit their programs because of their tutor. So people are not leaving programs because they're not liking their tutor, if that makes sense. They are not leaving programs because of their tutor. If they're leaving programs, it's because life got in the way. It's because they're busy people. The adult learners are busy people. And then I believe in mentoring the tutors through continuing education or just being available. Even I have so many different things scanned up and saved. I've done workshops. I've done workshops at other counties in Florida, and literally like a year later, they're still asking me for stuff. And I say, hey, I have something, I can send that to you. Or, you know, I have things, all kinds of things scanned up and saved. So if you're ever looking for something, I probably have it, literally. And I think, oh, the other thing I did put in our shared drive was I put a couple of pictures of marketing, like wanted posters. So like to the effect like wanted, tutor to teach this or wanted. And if you see it hanging up, if you have a place to hang it up, wow, you will get people that will ask you about it. Even I would hang it up like right outside the training room. And so while I was doing the training, people would walk in and be like, wow, what is this all about? And I said, oh, we're having a 2-day new tutor training. I would love for you to join us, in the future, and I would actually bring attention to it. I can show you a picture. I put a couple in the share drive. I think it's important for the needs of the learners and the roles of the tutors. You do have to set up your own guidelines for your tutor training. Where's your tutor training going to take place? Is it going to take place in a public place, in a library, in your organization? Do you tell them to not meet personally in homes? Those are the things you have to know the answers to when you hold a tutor training. They will ask you those things. And I do think that both learner and tutor is responsible for the learning to take place. It has to be a partnership. It has to be a team. Okay, so these are some little tips for planning your workshop. So, of course, you're going to focus on what's the need. Are you working on a new tutor training? The objectives, by the way, I've put some objectives in our shared drive too. So you can all take a look at that. We can take a look at that together. Selecting the resources, designing the content, what's your budget? Do you need to purchase supplies? And then I'm not sure if most of you have a stable training place or if you need to reserve a room, but that can be a challenge in itself. I've walked into situations where I did not know what my training room was going to look like. That can be hard. It also can be hard if you ever decide to be a trainer for the Florida Literacy Coalition and go out and help them and do some trainings. Once you master all this, go on out and do trainings for the Florida Literacy Coalition. It's hard because you won't know the specific guidelines for that particular program, if that makes sense. And you're walking into, you're there to train the content, but the participants always have all these other questions that you may not be, privy to because you're not part of that, you're not directly part of that organization. So just something to keep in mind. They ask a lot of questions. So then during conducting the workshop, setting up, we talked about the environment, objectives, and then evaluating the workshop after. We talked a little bit about that. So there are some checklists in here. I did not write these. These came from a source. Where did they come from? I don't know where they came from. But I did not write these. These were part of the original program, but there could be some validity in here for you. Just a checklist, making reservations, publicizing it, preparing agendas. I like achievement certificates. I don't know how you feel about this. I like to give each one of my tutors an achievement certificate. Hey, they have attended a 2-day pro literacy workshop. That's what I put on mine. It makes them feel good. It's at the, we wait till the end of the second day to do that. But I also like achievement certificates for learners. I don't know if anybody's doing that. I love when tutors want to celebrate their learner with an achievement certificate. And I have had learners literally, there's one gentleman that comes to mind who worked in a Burger King and had 8 children. And his eyes lit up. His eyes lit up when he got this. I mean, it was actually touching. So, and he was like, I'm going to show this to my kids. And we're like, yeah. So keep that in mind. I've had learners over the years where they felt like they weren't making strides until you show them something like this. I might as well just mention it now. Are your tutors keeping portfolios with the learner? That's a great way to see if progress is being made. And I have had adult learners, one in particular that comes to mind. He was an adult basic. He was born in this country and he just struggled with school and dropped out of school. And he would say, I'm not making any progress. And when we pulled open that portfolio, it's just a folder, anytime he wrote something, we date it and put it in his folder. Anytime he worked on something, we date it and put it in his folder. And when I showed him, when I pulled it out side by side, and I said, look at the progress you've made. Look how far you've come. So portfolios are a great thing to remind the learner that they have made progress, and to remind the tutor. Sometimes tutors need reminding they've made progress. I'm going to tell you about a quick story about a tutor, and she still actually volunteers in the organization where I used to work, I believe. And she had a learner, and we're going to call him Harry. And Harry was born deaf. And this particular tutor knows American Sign Language, so she volunteered to help Harry. And when I first met Harry would come into the library, wouldn't make eye contact, wouldn't look at anybody, wouldn't say a word. His shoulders were shrunk down. He just had no confidence. And this particular tutor said to me, after she met with him for months and months and months, she said to me, quote, Harry's not making any progress. And I said, have you seen Harry? I mean, Harry walks in, he has to say hello to every librarian. He has to come by my office and say hello. He's like a totally new person. I mean, he was a totally new person. So yes, maybe he wasn't retaining every single thing she taught him with reading, but did she change Harry's life? You better believe she changed Harry's life. So, and yes, they had to keep working on some of the reading and so forth. But, sometimes we need to remind ourselves, or the tutors or the learners, they are making progress. I think this is a fascinating statistic, and I stuck this in the Google Share Drive. Pro-literacy says for every 100 hours of instruction, that learner will make 10,000 more in annual income. Can you believe that? Pro-literacy says 10,000 more in annual income for every 100 hours of instruction. I put that slide in your Google Share Drive because I think it's amazing. Families that participate in literacy programs are 20%, the children are 20% more likely to read. The parents in your literacy program are 40% more times willing to read to their children, because they're building up their own skills. And you're telling the parents, go home and read these books to your children, practice your own skills. So pro-literacy has some interesting facts about there. Now, you probably have heard it takes about 50 hours of instruction to go up an entire grade level. You probably have heard that statistic already. That's something that I don't always like to share with the learner, because then if they're meeting once a week for 1 hour, it seems like it's never going to happen for them. So, I had a tutor once say to me, I had a tutor actually one time really come out to me, and she said, well, I'm not God. I can't, it says, 50 hours, but, I don't determine it. The learner determines it. And I think that's kind of true. The learner determines their success too. The tutor has the tools, the tutor does the best job they can, but it really does fall on the learner as well. Are they going home and practicing and reading to their kids? Are they looking at some of the different, are they building up their own vocabulary? Okay, so we have these checklists here. Okay, so we still have about 45 minutes. Is anybody wanting to take a 5 or 10 minute break? Okay, so let's see. It's how long do we need? 10, 5? What do you need? 10 minutes? Everybody need to get up and stretch? Want to
10
come
minutes
back?
sounds good.
Okay. How about, or come back at 4. How's that sound? I'll be here. I'll probably just run for a second, but I'll be back. Come back by 4?
Okay.
Everybody sound good? Okay, thank you.
Time.
It's like out there. It's really hot.
It's warm.
Hi, Mona.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are things going?
Can you hear?
Yes.
Is this Susan or who is this?
Yeah, Susan.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I think things are going great.
Good, good.
I'm interested in portfolios and the goals. I'll never let the goals go.
That's good.
But the audio, my audio keeps cutting in and out.
No.
It's just the audio is very problematic, and it only started at 3 o'clock, so it's been going on for 40 minutes for me. This audio problem.
Oh no.
I don't know what it is. I don't know. I just don't know what it is.
Sorry about that.
Oh, thank you. But I think I'm getting most of it. And then I got the Google Docs. Yeah, there's one I'm going to go back to on the Google Docs.
Which one?
And the evaluation. I'm looking through my 3 pages of notes here, and I can't find it. But I want to look. I think this is the one. It's the evaluation tool.
Yes.
I'm very interested in the evaluation tool. I had written a tool one time and I emailed it to Carla. I mean,
Oh,
this
wow.
was way,
Yes.
this was way back,
Yes.
I mean, 8 or 9 years ago. And I never, ever heard anything from her. But back then, I have an AOL email account.
Yes.
And back then, I don't think the library, I think it shifted out most anything
Yeah, that
AOL
could
for a
be.
while.
That could be, yes.
Yeah, there was some stuff that it wouldn't accept. I love that little tool I wrote. Now I'm going to go back through some of my old emails and my old computer and see if I can find it again.
Oh.
And I'll send it to you. But that's something I'm really interested in is the
Yeah.
portfolios and
Yes.
the evaluation tool, both of those.
Good.
So, but yeah, I took some notes here. The trainer competencies, I like that a lot. I think that needs to be hammered in a little bit, you know. So, and anyway, I've gotten some ideas for the 10-minute presentation.
Oh, good.
So,
Good.
you know, I'm not feeling quite as dreaded about it as I was in the beginning, because there is some stuff you can grab onto.
I guess I
So,
should talk about that. I didn't really talk about that, did I?
well, I think everybody's expecting you to really detail on that before we actually have to do it.
Okay.
You know, I kind of like to emphasize, like if I were standing up there doing a training,
Yes,
for example,
exactly.
I would like people to, you know, let them know that just be yourself. Just be
Yes.
yourself. Be who you are. You know, I mean, just, you know, make yourself comfortable. Just, you know, look at your own motivations and, you know, just don't be nervous.
Yes.
Just get in there and do it. They want to do it, and everybody wants to feel competent, you know.
Oh,
And there's
yeah.
no reason not. You're always making a difference. Just the fact that you're volunteering, you're making a difference. You're there. You're physically there. Just be yourself. You know, engaging, whatever your best, whatever your best attributes are, put them on display.
Yep. Yep. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, just, you know, have fun with it. Try to find out what they're interested in, what turns them on, so to speak, where anything that's written or spoken is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of us work on our literacy all our lives.
Absolutely.
Really, you know, yeah. You want to understand more about what you're reading. It never stops, really.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, improving vocabulary. And one thing that helped, or one thing that I've always is those if they come across an unfamiliar word, those cards, those little 3x5
Oh, yeah.
index
Yes.
cards.
Yes.
I
Uh-huh.
I would have them write the word and then put the definition on the back, and then flashcards, I guess they call them.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if they see that word in the future, they can refer to their flashcard, you know, and eventually maybe not have to refer to the flashcard.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was something I learned in one of these workshops in North Carolina.
That's good.
They were big on those flashcards up there, very big. So, and eventually they had a little stack of flashcards, but
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
what I actually did with them in real life, you know, you don't really know, but I just think it's a cool activity.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So I still miss Carla after all these years.
Yeah. I think she moved, right?
Yeah, Iowa or one of those places with her dad.
Yeah.
Because I think it was just the two of them. She was taking care of him. So, you know, what she's actually doing, if she,
Yeah. I did go to her mom's funeral.
Oh, you did?
I did. And she was
Oh.
so happy to see me there. I mean, she was so happy to see me there because I hadn't talked to her.
I'm
'Cause
sure she was.
she kind of left quick, you know, and
Yeah, yeah.
but she was happy to see me. But I loved her mother. I loved her father too. I knew her parents.
Oh, oh, oh. Yeah, I mean, from the time she told me about her mother's illness, I mean, it was just like no time at all, practically. It seemed like 1 or 2 years
Yeah.
max before it was the end. And so that was kind of
Yeah.
shocking to me, you know, because
Exactly.
people tend to kind of linger with that.
Yeah.
So, That was,
Let me see for a second. If
that
I,
was, and
but
then,
did
you know, you never know how somebody's going to respond.
yes.
Go ahead.
No,
I
I
mean,
think I think you see me full right now, right?
let me see. Let me try something.
I wanted to see if I can bring something.
I'm using my
Can I
I'm
break
using
in
my
here?
Chromebook for the very
Yeah.
first time for a Zoom.
Okay.
And I've always used my iPhone in the past. There's just funny little things on this Chromebook that, you know, I don't know what to hit or not hit, or bring up or not bring up. I don't know that I actually see a full screen right now.
Okay.
It's not, there's not a little message that says you're on full screen. Nothing.
Okay.
So
Excuse me for just a second here.
Yes.
Nona, if you turn your camera off, you may increase your Wi-Fi signal, and that may improve your sound.
let me try the I'm on, oh, let me pop this icon that says stop video and see what happens.
Now your
Okay,
sound should
it puts a
improve.
bar across. Oh, I thought it was the audio settings I had to mess with, not the
Well,
video.
If your audio is problematic because of your Wi-Fi internet signal, then stopping your camera will decrease. You won't have any Wi-Fi feeding your camera, and it can all go to your audio. So that should improve your audio.
Now, is this Faye speaking?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanted to also suggest to Susan that when we come back, she remind everybody that it's good Zoom manners to stay muted unless you're actually speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm going to mute.
Yeah. Okay, let's see.
I'm still here. I'm just eating my dinner because I have a class right after this.
Oh boy.
Now, some of these Zoom meetings have a raise your hand feature. But when people raise their hand, you know, they tend to want to ask a question, which, as you pointed out, kind of lags everything a bit. And hands are raised or questions are answered at the end, whatever. But you've heard of UF IFAS?
Yeah. You mean
extension office?
IRIS, IRIS.
IFAS, IFAS, the county extension offices.
Oh, I thought you were
You know,
talking about. Yes,
agricultural and family and youth, and
yes,
they have these programs that I attend quite frequently, and they use this Zoom format and everything too, and they'll have a presenter, and then they'll have somebody off the side that continuously monitors the chat where people have put in questions, and then the presenter pauses. I don't know how frequently, maybe every 10 minutes, something like that, and goes over maybe picks one question from the chat, because obviously if 4 or 5 questions are coming in through the chat, you can't interrupt your whole presentation, but they might pick one. They'll say something like, oh, somebody put in here, you know, they want to know about thus and so. And it might be actually relevant at that particular
I
point.
agree. Yes. So the last time I taught this online, we actually people just talked right through and said, I have a question. I don't mind that. So I don't mind that. I think Zara said when she comes back, we're going to look if there's any questions.
Oh, okay.
But
And I
yeah,
think I think on your end, you could mute all of us. If you don't want anybody talking through and somebody on a side
I
phone conversation.
I actually did not allow you all in. It was Zara today.
I can
Oh,
make sure
oh,
everyone is muted, and I've been monitoring the chat in case there's any questions.
oh, okay.
And even if
Cool.
you're all muted, we can still see the raised hands.
Oh, okay, cool.
So if Susan sees that, or if I see that, we'll call your name and you can unmute at that
Yeah,
point.
that's cool. That's cool. I just learned all that from the UF IFAS extension, which I've been to about 50 of them, it seems, over the past 3 years. You know, during COVID, that was a perfect time for Zoom
Yes.
meeting. Yeah, I kind of zoomed out on all this stuff. So, but I took their money manager program. They call it money mentor, something like that.
That's
You know,
great.
where you advise people on their management of money and so forth. It's pretty fascinating. So,
That's
and
great.
the Literacy Coalition is mentioning quite frequently now about this grant for a library to teach financial literacy. Have you noticed that?
No.
Yeah, I'll forward it to you. They it seems like every month they send it out. Um, they want to equip libraries to be able to teach financial literacy in addition to your normal literacy of reading and writing. But I guess they're sticking arithmetic in there or something. I don't know. But money management with arithmetic. So I guess it's just a need, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, with inflation and all, you kind of have to flip those numbers a little more frequently than before.
Mhm.
So, and you know, cautioning about credit cards, how your interest can go from 7% to 27% overnight.
Especially now.
Yeah,
Especially now.
yeah, yeah.
You hear about that.
I'll forward you
Interesting.
that.
I once wrote a little tiny thing, like learn to earn at your library was my
What is that?
little, it was a program I made up and I got funded.
Oh,
Yeah.
did you
And
ever?
yeah, we were
You,
able to purchase like books, for adults, teens, kids.
oh,
Yeah, I had gotten some like even like bunny money for the kids and
oh,
even like the Millennials Guide to Finance, all
oh.
for all
Do you
ages.
think? Do you think any of those materials are still at Citrus Libraries?
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to have to ask about that.
Mm-hmm. I could
That's my
probably,
new, yeah,
yeah,
that's my new passion is that's financial literacy thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it is like 4:04. We probably should get back. I'm not sure if everybody's back. But I thought we would talk a little bit about, and I think Zara said she was gonna, I don't know if she's back yet.
Oh,
Let
yeah,
me see
let
if
me
she's
mute.
back. So, hi, Zara. Do we have any questions we need to go over in the chat?
I haven't seen any.
Or does anybody have, how about this? What questions do you have so far? What questions do you have so far? I'm going to give you all about 7 seconds.
What do you think is the minimum number of participants for a workshop? Would you say 7, 10?
Yeah, I mean, I would still do it for some. If you were not needing to have a sign-in sheet because you were reporting and getting monies for it, I would say why not? Do 5, do 7.
How often do you do your tutor trainings?
I like a minimum of 2 up to 4 times a year. Minimum of 2 up to 4 times.
We've been doing them every month. But
Wow.
yes, sometimes we have 7 people or 9 people or something like that.
Wow.
But we also have a long waiting list of students, so.
That's impressive. I do like to have other trainings too, like pre-GED instructor, citizenship instructor, and then the quarterly continuing education. Because I've always spread out my tutor workshops so long, or not necessarily so long, but there is a little bit of time in between them. Because I have to admit, I was always looking for funding. I would invite potential tutors to the continuing education workshops just to get their feet wet. I wouldn't necessarily be matching them up, but I was saying, hey, why don't you come and join us? I know this is not the new tutor training, but why don't, you know, until the new tutor training comes up in the next couple of weeks, why don't you come and join us? You'll get to meet us and talk to us. And so I've used that too as a stepping stone to keep them interested. But I mean, because I am the trainer, I could offer more workshops than what I do, but I know I was always looking for funding. And I know that's was part of my reason, but
I don't know anything about the funding for, in my county, but,
so the floor,
I get, perhaps they just had general funding and they weren't asking for funding just for training. And we also have a tutor in service once a month, except in the summer. And I know that, if, you know, when some new potential tutors have gone through training, and then there's an in-service, like a week later, they are invited to attend that, even if they haven't been assigned a student yet.
that's a good practice. Yes. That sounds good. Well, you're doing a lot there, Janet. You're doing a lot there.
I'm not doing it. I'm just a volunteer tutor. I just do my little tiny bit of the training session.
Now, when you have the monthly tutor workshops or the in-service, how long are they?
They are, well, they used to be an hour and a half in person, but most of them have been on Zoom recently, and those are an hour. We are starting to have some more back in person, which I like a lot better, but
yes.
Yes, and when we've had the ones in person, we've had a lunch to go along with it. So
that's nice. That is nice.
You know, which I guess draws a few more people.
Yeah, that's good. All right, I'm not sure if everybody's back, but I thought we talk a little bit about the participant presentation assignment. And so we do want you to come up with some kind of a training activity. It could be a PowerPoint presentation. It could be an activity with a handout. We'd like to see you develop something that you would actually use at a training. You know, when I've actually taken this course, I'll just mention this. One of my mentors is Roberta Rice, and she's from the state of Florida. And she taught this course for many years. And I took her course like 3 times. And it's funny because I took her course like 3 times, and I always talked to her and I tried to learn from her. So she's one of my mentors. And then she basically passed this torch on to me after she didn't want to teach it anymore. But, and she retired. But she used to assign the topic. Isn't that interesting? She used to assign a topic. So I was assigned graphic organizers one time. And I did a PowerPoint presentation on graphic organizers that we used for many, many years in my literacy program. They might still use it. I don't know if they do. But a graphic organizer is not a topic I would normally do at a new tutor training. I would do that more as a tutor enrichment workshop, as a continuing education workshop. But one of my other colleagues, she did she was assigned reading comprehension. And I took her few slides that she created for the Train the Tutor trainer like 15 years ago or more and added to it. So that's the whole purpose of this, is that you might actually come up with something that you might use and might even expand upon. So it's if and you'll get to see content from other, trainers across the state of Florida. So I will share some things. I can actually even show you the reading comprehension one, or I don't know if the graphic organizers, I don't use that much. I have to be honest. It would not have been my topic for new tutor training. That's just me. But so if there's anything here that really interests you.
Susan, what page is this on in the book? Is it in the book?
I think I emailed this to you instead.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I don't think this is in the book because this is specific for our session, the Thursday, June 29th.
Okay, thank you.
Now, are you seeing it on the screen right now too?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, maybe if you've never created a PowerPoint or a presentation about your intro to your literacy program, that could also be done. I think I mentioned to you, I have several, depending on what group I go to speak to, I change it up, depending on who's in my audience. So how are we feeling about this assignment? What questions do you have about this assignment?
You said it was 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, it might have to be a little shorter, but I would go for, make a 10-minute presentation. And we just might not get out that day, that last class.
It would be helpful for me if I could see like an example. Like, I mean, I teach ESOL, but I've never trained anyone. And so I'm still kind of in that mode of, putting activities together for my students, as opposed to presenting it in a way that someone else could do it if they were leading a class. So I'm kind of getting hung up on some of those details.
So,
send me some ideas. Like, I'm just not sure, because like we're in a training now and you're training us as teachers. So if I'm going to train a teacher how to do something, like, I don't know, like I don't know how to make my brain shift to be, as opposed to actually just doing it with my students. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I might be overthinking it, but
yeah, I think you might be overthinking it. So okay, let me bring this up real quick. I'll bring this one up. So I just want to know, are you seeing the language experience approach? No. No? Okay, let me see. Okay, let's see if I can bring that back up. I want to share this. Okay. Nope. Okay.
I mean, if it's something that you want to send me later, I think, because like I feel like I'm kind of the newbie in the room when it comes to this. Everybody else has been, like,
no,
it's a lot longer than me. So
okay.
I was gonna say, Isabella, you're not alone.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
no.
I'm a visual learner, so I
Okay.
definitely would love to see it as well.
All right. Thanks, Nora.
So are you seeing the language experience approach up there? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So this is something, I love this technique. I love the language experience approach for adult basic learners, English language learners. So, okay. So this is actually, I use this all the time. And I gave this to you. This is in your Google Shared Drive. So you can literally use this. You could use this next week if you want to. And I think I even put my notes. I always write my self-trainer notes. So I would bring this first slide up explain about this great technique called the language experience approach, and how a tutor working with a learner would literally just ask them, tell me a story, what you did last weekend. Or the tutor could say, tell me about a special holiday celebration that you do in your country, if they're an English language learner, you know, just to find out a little bit more about them. Or tell me about your children, or whatever it is, your family. And get them to give you a couple of sentences, and then you write it down. And then you turn around and use those sentences as a learning tool. So you can, for example, let's see, I would like to, it's funny, I wanted to make this bigger, but my Zoom link is hiding it. I wanted to make it full screen, but my Zoom link is hiding it. Can everybody read that, the language experience approach and all the details on there? Okay.
Yes.
So for the example there, you know, the word pattern endings went, bent, sent, tent. You could use antonyms, you know, the opposite, early, late, youngest, oldest, you know, homonyms. You can see the by, and by. Do you remember those terms when you learned those long time ago? So you can use this. You can look at the CH blend and look at that. There's just so many things you can do with this. You can have them circle, you know, all the, you know, nouns. There's just it's never ending what you can do with this. The amazing thing about the language experience approach is that the learner knows the vocabulary because it's their story. So there's no problems with a lack of vocabulary because the learner is the one that supplied you the story. So you really can focus on other things. You can focus on the grammar, or like I said, you can learn additional words by that word pattern. That is one of the quickest ways to build up vocabulary, is to have those rhyming word patterns, sent, tent, bent. You know, think about ache, bake, cake, make, you know, lake. Look how many words the person just learned by switching out that first consonant. So if I were teaching this, I love to put that first, I've put this up there, I've done this, and then I actually will sometimes ask if a tutor will come forward and will model it with me. And we literally write the story up on the whiteboard. And then sometimes I'll even take a little like sticky notepads, and I'll say, put this on the word went, and or whatever, you know, and then see if they can, have them see if they can do it, what you're asking. I mean, of course, the tutor is going to be able to do it, but I'm modeling to show how what things that they could do with a learner. So this would be a good example of a training content that you could create and do as your part of your presentation. How does that sound?
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think when
Is there another idea?
Yeah, you want some more ideas? Okay. Let's see. I do have, kind of want to show you some longer ones though, but this is a real simplistic one. I have some other ones I could show you that are longer, but I don't think we would have the time to go through it. Let me see. Let me see here. Okay. All right. Thank you for being patient. Let's see, I want to share. Okay, I would like you to see. Okay. Can you see this one? Reading comprehension?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why can I not run this from my Zoom's bar is like covering my thing, so I can't run it. I wanted to run it. I'm sorry. Why is my Zoom bar? Can I move my Zoom bar? Yes. Okay. I've just figured out how to move my Zoom bar. Okay. So this is one, believe it or not, that came out of doing the Train the Tutor Trainer, like I'm talking like 15 years ago. But have we revamped it? Yes, we have revamped it. So that's the whole point of doing this presentation. So I use this to this day. I use this one to this day. So what is reading comprehension? It's the goal of all reading. It's why we read. Understanding. We want to get a meaning from what we've read. And then we have that that formal definition. It's extracting and constructing meaning. Okay, so this is basically what we had when we did it for the Train the Tutor Trainer. The 3 pillars of reading comprehension are phonics, vocabulary, and fluency. You know, phonics is being able to attach a sound to a symbol, knowing that T is T, knowing that vocabulary is what increases the comprehension because you can go to the background knowledge. And then fluency is that ease and speed and flow of reading. So this is why the tutors love this. So we will read this aloud together. There are 10,000 kinds of quigs in the world. Yeah. However, only finnyquigs make finny. There are 3 types of finnyquigs: stips, follers, and terps. Now, does this make sense? No, this does not make sense. But that's because there's a lack of background knowledge. There's unfamiliar vocabulary. I won't spend a lot of time because I know I don't want to keep you. Okay, now read this. Let's read this aloud. There are 10,000 kinds of bees in the world. However, only honeybees make honey. There are 3 types of honeybees: queens, workers, and drones. Now, this makes sense, but so this was our initial little presentation about there, okay? And then we went ahead and added the myths of reading, which is from the Lit Start book, the myths of reading. And I'll just show you really quick. So there was only maybe 6 slides that we did for the Train the Tutor Trainer presentation, but then we added these later. So I love the myths of reading in Lit Start. If anybody uses Lit Start, the tutors love this. Learners must know the words or be able to sound them out. Would you agree that you cannot sound out, you almost can't sound out MX and HIX, you know, YXXX, you know, you really can't. But if we read this together, you would be able to sound this out and read this together, wouldn't you? Almost every year, Mrs. Crooks climbs up a mountain, which is over 14,000 feet high. Mrs. Crooks is 91 years old. So does that help a little bit? That could be an example of a presentation that you could use to teach reading comprehension.
Susan?
Yes.
Real quick, we have a couple other questions in the chat, if now's a good
Perfect.
time to
Yes.
read them out.
Yes.
The first one is Trish asked if you could tell us when the next time you'll be hosting these classes and how often you run these classes. She also asked if this activity is for tutors to use with their students or what a trainer would use with a class of other tutors.
Oh, this one in particular, this one here. So yeah, I
Oh,
would
not
actually.
actually it was it was a few minutes ago. I think it was like 2 slides ago.
Okay, so the language experience approach
Trish, you can.
Yeah.
I
Was it the
thought-
language?
No, not what you're showing, but the activity, the assignment that we're supposed to do. Is it for trainers to use with the tutors in a class? Or
Yes.
so that tutor, yes, okay, got it, thank you.
Yep, it's supposed to be trainer focused, like what you would actually do in your training content in a training. Mhm.
I mean, I think my other question was just when you're teaching this again.
Uh, I don't think you have any plans for this to happen again, Zara. I mean, except for the sessions, of
No,
course.
not yet.
You know
I
about
mean,
the,
we have the next 4.
yeah, there's 4 more sessions. Is that what you mean, Trish?
No, I mean, if I had other people that we wanted to take your class, would you be offering it again?
So we typically plan to do it every year, but we don't have any plans in place at the moment.
Okay,
Yeah, we wouldn't know until the next
okay,
6
thank
months.
you.
Mhm. And then
Sure.
there was another question about the assignment, if it can be 5 minutes long, about 5 slides.
Yes. Sure, that sounds great.
Okay, great. I think that's all then. Mona
Okay, great.
just had a great idea of what she does with her learners. She cuts pictures out of magazines and puts them in a binder so that they can recognize what they're doing. So she shared that with us.
I think that sounds great. That sounds great.
That's all.
All right. So we did not go over the training styles inventory today, and that was kind of on purpose because we had a couple of people that came in that didn't get the material till about an hour or 2 before today's class because they registered later. So we will go ahead and take a look at that at our next session, which is Thursday. Same time, I think we're meeting at 2 o'clock again Thursday. And we'll definitely go over the training styles. So if you haven't had a chance to take a look at the learning styles or the training styles, if you could please do that. And think about, feel free to reach out to me if there's anything other questions you have. I am sincere that I'm willing to help you whatever way possible. And I have been a literacy administrator. Obviously, I'm a director. I understand how to get funding. I understand how to write proposals. Even if you're looking to get little things funded from your Rotary or women's clubs, if anything, just reach out to me. I probably have information to share. So I think, Zara, it's just about 4:30. I can stay here, for a couple more minutes if anybody has questions. And remember, we say, what questions do you have? And I want to thank everybody for being a great group today. And we'll continue the journey on Thursday. I hope you come back. Come back.
Thank you all for
Definitely.
joining us today. We'll hope to see
Thank you
you.
for everything. Learned a
Thank
lot.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
So were there things I have to look at in the chat to it does,
There were maybe a couple like comments if you want to go through.
yeah.
I read out all
Yeah.
the questions to you. But yeah, definitely feel free to see what was going on during,
Yeah, let's see.
because I mean people were interacting in the chat when they didn't want to speak out loud.
Yes. So they want I've heard from a few people they want to hear about the portfolio more. Let's see.
Oh yes, that was a question I forgot to read.
Let's see. The
portfolio assessments and what they might include.
Yeah, let's see. Portfolio.
I'm going to stop recording.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm just looking real quick.